The accidental proposal. Marcus Webb had spent 3 years working as a cultural liaison at Space Station Harmony, and he prided himself on never making a diplomatic mistake. At 27, he was the youngest person ever promoted to senior liaison, responsible for first contact protocols with newly encountered species. His record was spotless, until today. "Remember, Marcus," Dr. Patricia Chen said as they walked toward the docking bay, "the Zolarans are a peaceful species, but we have limited data on their customs." The station commander was a petite woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Follow standard greeting protocols and let them take the lead." "Understood, Commander." Marcus straightened his uniform, mentally reviewing everything he knew about the Zolaran delegation. They were humanoid, had recently initiated contact with the Galactic Council, and were here to discuss trade agreements. The files have been frustratingly sparse on cultural details. The docking bay doors hissed open, and Marcus felt his breath catch. The Zolaran delegation entered with an elegance that seemed almost choreographed. But it was their leader who captured his complete attention. She appeared to be his age, with flowing hair that shimmered like starlight against the station's lighting. Her skin was a beautiful purple shade, deep and rich like twilight, and she moved with a grace that made his usually quick mind stumble. Her eyes, when they met his, were the most striking silver he'd ever seen, almost luminescent. "Welcome to Space Station Harmony," Dr. Chen said, her voice warm and diplomatic. "I am Commander Patricia Chen, and this is Marcus Webb, our senior cultural liaison." Marcus stepped forward, wanting to make a good impression. He knew that showing respect was universal across most species. Placing his hand over his heart, a gesture he'd used successfully dozens of times, he bowed his head slightly and smiled warmly, hoping to convey peaceful intentions. The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. The purple-skinned woman gasped, her eyes widening impossibly large. Her hands flew to cover her mouth, and her skin suddenly flushed to a much deeper violet shade. She began speaking rapidly in her native language, the words flowing too quickly for the translation devices to keep up. The delegation behind her erupted into excited celebration. Several members produced what looked like crystalline flowers from their robes, holding them up as they began a rhythmic chanting that echoed through the docking bay. "What's happening?" Marcus whispered urgently to Dr. Chen, but the commander looked equally baffled. Before anyone could respond, the woman stepped forward with surprising speed and grasped both of Marcus's hands in hers. Her touch was warm, almost hot, and sent an unexpected sensation racing up his arms. "Citizens of Earth Station," she announced in accented but clear English, her voice carrying with surprising authority, "I present to you my chosen life bond." Her silver eyes were shining with what appeared to be pure joy. "This human has offered himself to me in the sacred heartbow ritual of eternal joining." The docking bay fell into shocked silence. Marcus felt every drop of blood drain from his face as what felt like hundreds of eyes turned toward him. Station personnel, visiting diplomats, even a maintenance crew working nearby, all staring at him with expressions ranging from confusion to horror. "Wait, what?" Marcus's voice came out higher than intended. "I'm sorry, there's been some kind of. I am Princess Zara of the House of Starlight, first daughter of Zalara's High Council," the woman continued, still holding his hands firmly, her purple skin now glowing with a soft radiance, "and I accept this human's proposal with all my heart and spirit." The Zolaran delegation's celebration intensified. The crystalline flowers were tossed into the air, creating a shower of prismatic light. More members joined the chanting, their voices harmonizing in a way that was actually quite beautiful, if Marcus hadn't been in the middle of a complete diplomatic disaster. "Princess Zara, I think there's been a terrible misunderstanding." Marcus tried to pull his hands free, but her grip was surprisingly strong. "I was just greeting you, showing respect." "The modesty of my chosen is beautiful," Zara said, turning to address the growing crowd of onlookers. Her eyes sparkled with admiration. "See how he attempts to downplay the sacred significance of his gesture." She looked back at Marcus, her expression softening. "You need not be humble, brave one. Your courage in offering the heart bow before witnesses shows great strength." Dr. Chen was suddenly pushing through the crowd, her diplomatic composure completely shattered. Behind her, Marcus could see junior officers frantically activating emergency communication devices. This was escalating far beyond a simple cultural misunderstanding. Princess Zara, Chen began carefully, perhaps we should move this conversation to a more private setting. There is no need for privacy, Zara said, though her tone remained kind. Among my people, the acceptance of a life bond is cause for public celebration. She squeezed Marcus's hands gently, though if my chosen prefers a quieter acknowledgement, I will honor his wishes. Marcus's mind was racing, trying to figure out how a simple greeting, one he performed hundreds of times with dozens of species, had somehow resulted in what appeared to be an accidental marriage proposal. As Zara gazed at him with those radiant silver eyes, her purple skin still glowing softly with what he was beginning to recognize as happiness, Marcus realized his perfect diplomatic record had just been spectacularly shattered. Conference Room 7, Dr. Chen said quietly, her face pale, right now. As they led the delegation away from the chaos of the docking bay, Marcus caught his reflection in a passing viewport. He looked exactly like someone who had just accidentally proposed marriage to an alien princess. Because that's exactly what he'd done. The impossible situation. Conference Room 7 had never felt so small, despite being one of the largest meeting spaces on the station. Marcus sat at the long table, his mind still spinning from the events of the past 2 hours. Zara sat beside him, closer than he was comfortable with, occasionally touching his arm in what she clearly believed were affectionate gestures. Each touch sent a confusing mixture of nervousness and warmth through him. Dr. Patricia Chen stood at the head of the table, her usually impeccable composure showing visible cracks. Let me understand this correctly, she said, her voice tight. Marcus accidentally proposed marriage to the daughter of Zalara's High Council by placing his hand over his heart and bowing. It's a standard greeting, Marcus protested, running his hands through his hair. I've used it with at least 20 different species without incident. Dr. James Harrison, the station's xenosociology expert, looked up from his hastily assembled research materials. He was a tall man in his 40s with graying hair and the perpetually tired look of someone who'd been pulled from sleep for an emergency. According to these cultural files, which are unfortunately incomplete, the heart-bow gesture among Zalarans is exclusively used as a formal marriage proposal. He adjusted his glasses nervously. It's considered the highest honor one can offer, reserved only for declaring romantic intentions before witnesses. Zara nodded enthusiastically, her purple skin shifting to a warmer shade. The sacred heart bow, her silver eyes sparkled as she looked at Marcus. My spirit nearly stopped when this beautiful human offered himself so boldly. She touched his hand gently. I have never witnessed such confidence in a first meeting. Most Zalaran males require months to gather such courage. Confidence. Marcus turned to stare at her. Princess Zara, I was terrified. You're the first Zalaran I've ever met. I was just trying to be polite. Such modesty. Zara's skin deepened to an even richer purple, and she actually smiled, a gesture that made her already striking features even more beautiful. My chosen is so humble about his romantic prowess. This is a quality highly valued among my people. Ambassador Kieran Moore, the Zalaran delegation's cultural attaché, cleared his throat. He was an elderly male with pale blue skin and kind eyes that now showed concern. Commander Chen, I must inform you that the situation is quite serious. Among our people, once a life bond is publicly accepted, it cannot be easily dissolved. Dr. Chen stopped her pacing. What exactly happens if we, she chose her words carefully, undo this marriage? Kieran's expression grew grave. To reject a life bond after public acceptance is considered the deepest insult possible in Zalaran culture. He paused, seeming to weigh his words. It implies that the rejected party is fundamentally unworthy of love itself. The shame would follow Princess Zara for the rest of her life. And diplomatically, Chen pressed, though Marcus could see she already feared the answer. It would almost certainly end all future relations between our species. Kieran admitted quietly. The High Council would view it as a deliberate humiliation of their daughter. Possibly permanently. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, everything we've worked toward, all would be lost. Marcus felt the weight of interstellar diplomacy settling heavily on his shoulders. The room seemed to contract around him. So let me get this straight. I accidentally started a marriage that could cause an intergalactic incident if I end it. That's an accurate summary, Dr. Harrison said quietly, not meeting Marcus's eyes. The silence that followed was suffocating. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. 3 years of perfect service, and now he was personally responsible for potentially destroying Earth's relationship with an entire species. Zara suddenly took his hand, her touch gentle but firm. Her skin was warm, almost hot, but not uncomfortable. My chosen seems greatly distressed. Her silver eyes showed genuine concern, and Marcus noticed how her purple hue deepened when she was worried. Is this not how human bonding ceremonies proceed? Marcus took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. Princess Zara, among humans, marriage is usually discussed first. We court each other, spend time together, get to know each other. He met her eyes, trying to convey his sincerity. We decide if we're compatible before making such a serious commitment. Ah, Zara's eyes brightened with understanding. You wish to know if I am worthy of your bond. She straightened proudly, her posture regal. Of course, a wise male would verify his choice. She began counting on her fingers. I am trained in 17 forms of combat, including the sacred dance of blades. I can speak 12 languages fluently, including 3 earth languages. I have memorized the complete histories of 6 star systems and can recite the poetry of the ancient masters. She paused, then added with a shy smile, I am also told I make excellent fermented fruit beverages, though I have not yet tasted your earth wines. Despite everything, the diplomatic disaster, the impossible situation, the weight of responsibility, Marcus found himself smiling slightly. That is genuinely impressive. Mr. Webb, Dr. Chen interrupted, her voice taking on the tone she used when giving orders. The Zalaran delegation is scheduled to remain on the station for 2 weeks to finalize trade agreements. Perhaps during that time, you and Princess Zara could explore your compatibility while Dr. Harrison and I research possible solutions. Marcus's smile faded. You want me to fake being married? I want you to prevent an interstellar war, Chen corrected sharply. Consider it an extension of your liaison duties. You're always saying that understanding between species requires genuine effort and time. Commander, with respect. Mr. Webb, this situation is partially the station's fault for not having complete cultural files. Chen's voice softened slightly. I'm not ordering you to marry her. I'm asking you to spend 2 weeks getting to know Princess Zara while we find a diplomatic solution that satisfies both parties. Can you do that? Zara squeezed his hand gently. I would be honored to court my chosen properly. According to human customs, her expression was earnest, hopeful. I will learn your ways and prove my worthiness as your life bond. If, at the end of this time, you find me unsuitable, I will. She hesitated, her skin paling slightly. I will accept your judgment. Marcus looked into her silver eyes and saw genuine hope mixed with vulnerability. She wasn't some diplomatic pawn or spoiled princess making demands. She was a person who believed he'd chosen her, who was willing to adapt to his culture, who was trying so hard to make this work. The thought of breaking her heart suddenly felt worse than facing an interstellar incident. All right, he said finally, 2 weeks. We'll see how this goes. Zara's delighted smile was brighter than the station's lighting system, and her purple skin glowed with a warm radiance that made Marcus's heart skip unexpectedly. Maybe, he thought, this wouldn't be completely terrible. Unexpected connection. The past week of their trial marriage had been nothing like Marcus expected. He'd anticipated awkwardness, cultural confusion, maybe some uncomfortable diplomatic dinners. What he hadn't anticipated was how thoughtful Zara would be, or how easily she'd begun to fit into his life. Every morning started the same way. Zara would arrive at his quarters at precisely 0700 hours, dressed in clothing she'd carefully selected to blend human and Zalaran styles. Today she wore a soft blue sweater that complemented her purple skin beautifully, paired with dark pants that the station's fashion consultant had helped her choose. Good morning, Marcus, she said, and then, as she did every morning, she paused with her hand extended. May I? You don't have to ask permission every time, Marcus said, though he found the gesture endearing. But I wish to, Zara replied simply. Consent is important in human culture. I have been studying. She'd been studying everything. Marcus had caught her reading human relationship guides, watching Earth movies, even interviewing other station personnel about proper courting behavior. She approached learning about humanity with the same intensity she'd apparently brought to mastering combat and languages. "Coffee," Marcus offered, holding up a cup. Zara accepted it with both hands, a Zalaran gesture of gratitude he'd learned meant deep appreciation. She took a careful sip, and her face scrunched up slightly, an expression that made Marcus laugh. "Bitter liquid courage," she declared, using the phrase she'd coined on day 2, "Your species has remarkable tolerance for unpleasant flavors. You don't have to drink it if you don't like it. But you enjoy it, so I wish to understand why." She took another determined sip. "Perhaps it is an acquired taste, like the fermented kelp paste from my homeworld." They fell into their morning routine. Zara practiced her English idioms while Marcus reviewed the day's schedule, both of them sharing comfortable silence punctuated by easy conversation. It felt natural in a way that surprised him. Later, during his lunch break, they walked through the station's observation deck. Zara had changed into more casual clothing, jeans and a sweater she'd borrowed from Lieutenant Sarah Chen, the commander's daughter. The human clothes somehow made her seem more approachable, though her purple skin and silver eyes still drew stares from passing personnel. "Your species has such interesting emotional expressions," Zara said, studying his face with the intensity of a scientist examining a fascinating specimen. "When you concentrate on your work, your forehead develops these small creases." She reached up hesitantly, then paused. "May I?" Marcus nodded, and she gently touched the space between his eyebrows. "It's quite endearing," she continued, her fingers warm against his skin. "On Zalara, we show concentration through skin color shifts, but your faces are so expressive. Every emotion creates a different pattern." "You've been watching me work?" Marcus asked, surprised. "I hope that's acceptable." Zara pulled her hand back quickly, looking worried. "I wanted to understand what brings my chosen fulfillment." Her skin shifted to a darker purple, her nervous color. He'd learned, on Zalara, we believe that knowing your partner's passions is essential to a strong bond. "But if I have overstepped?" "No, it's fine," Marcus assured her, "I'm just surprised. Most people find translation work boring." "How could it be boring?" Zara's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "You bridge entire worlds with words. You find the spaces where understanding can exist between completely different species. That is beautiful work, Marcus." No one had ever described his job as beautiful before. Necessary, important, challenging, yes. But beautiful. Marcus felt something warm unfold in his chest. They settled on a bench overlooking the massive viewport that showed the stars beyond. Zara sat with careful space between them, another human custom she'd learned, though Marcus found himself wishing she'd sit closer. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "Always." "What if I hadn't accidentally proposed?" He turned to face her. "Would you have been disappointed not to meet me?" Zara was quiet for a long moment, her skin shifting through several shades of purple, a sign of complex emotions. "I will be honest with you," she said finally. "When our delegation was assigned to visit this station, I was resistant. I have spent my life proving myself worthy of respect beyond my title. I trained harder than any male warrior, studied more languages, memorized more histories." Her silver eyes met his. "I did not want to come here and be seen as merely a princess, a diplomatic ornament." "I don't see you that way," Marcus said quietly. "I know." Zara's skin brightened, glowing softly. "That is what surprised me most. When you performed the heart bow, I thought perhaps it was because of my title, my position. But these past days, you have asked about my training, my studies, my thoughts on literature and combat and philosophy." She smiled, and Marcus realized it was becoming his favorite expression. "You see Zara, not Princess Zara. That is rare." "You're brilliant," Marcus said, the words coming easily. "Anyone who can't see that is blind." Zara's purple skin flushed to a deep violet, and she looked away shyly. "You make me feel seen in ways I have never experienced." They sat in silence, watching the stars drift past the viewport. Somewhere during the past week, this had stopped being an obligation and started being something else. Something real. "Marcus," Zara said softly, "may I teach you something from my culture?" "Of course." She shifted to face him fully, her expression serious. Among my people, we have a meditation technique called star bonding. It is used to calm the mind and strengthen connection between partners. She extended her hands, palms up. It requires touch. Is that acceptable? Marcus placed his hands in hers, and Zara's fingers intertwined with his. Her skin was warm, almost hot, but comfortable. Close your eyes, she instructed gently. Breathe with me. Feel the rhythm of the station, the pulse of life around us, the steady beating of two hearts beginning to synchronize. Marcus followed her breathing, slow and deep. The stress he'd been carrying, about the diplomatic situation, about the future, about everything, began to ease. He felt present in a way he rarely did, aware of Zara's presence, her warmth, the gentle pressure of her hands. When they finally opened their eyes, Zara was smiling at him with an expression so tender it made his breath catch. Thank you for giving me this time, she whispered. Whatever happens at the end of these 2 weeks, I will treasure these moments. Marcus squeezed her hands gently, realizing with sudden clarity that he was falling for her. Not because of diplomatic obligation or cultural accident, but because she was remarkable. So will I, he said softly. And he meant it. The choice. The beginning of the second week brought news that changed everything. Marcus was reviewing cultural files in his office when Dr. Chen entered, her expression unreadable. We found a solution, she said without preamble. Marcus's heart jumped. What kind of solution? Dr. Harrison discovered a clause in Zalaran bonding customs, a ceremonial trial separation. Chen pulled up a document on his display. It's traditionally used when life bonds are formed hastily. Both parties agree to a mutual parting for the good of their families. No shame, no insult, no diplomatic incident. Marcus stared at the screen, the words blurring slightly. So I can end this. Yes, Chen's voice softened. Marcus, you've gone above and beyond. No one would blame you for taking this option. You've given 2 weeks of your life to prevent a diplomatic crisis. That's enough. It should have felt like relief. Instead, Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Does Zara know? Not yet. We wanted to tell you first. Chen paused. The ceremony would need to happen soon, before the delegation departs. We'd present it as a mutual decision based on cultural differences. Marcus nodded slowly. Can I have some time to think? Of course. But Marcus, Chen's expression turned concerned. Don't let guilt cloud your judgment. This was an accident. You're not obligated to marry someone because of a cultural misunderstanding. After Chen left, Marcus sat in silence, his mind racing. He should feel relieved. He should be grateful for the escape route. Instead, all he could think about was Zara's smile when she'd finally mastered drinking coffee without making a face, her excitement when he taught her to play chess, the way her skin glowed warm purple when she laughed at his terrible jokes. That evening, he was supposed to meet Zara for dinner in the station's garden terrace. He arrived early, needing time to organize his thoughts. The terrace was beautiful at this hour, with artificial stars twinkling in the domed ceiling above. Marcus. He turned to find Zara approaching, wearing a dress she'd chosen herself, deep blue with silver threading that caught the light. She looked stunning. You're early too, he said, managing a smile. I enjoy our time together. I find myself anticipating it throughout the day. She sat beside him on the bench, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Is something troubling you? Your forehead has those creases, but they seem different than your concentration creases. Before Marcus could respond, his communication device chirped. He'd forgotten to mute it. Dr. Chen's voice came through, professional but clear enough for Zara to hear. Marcus, Ambassador Kiran needs the trial separation ceremony details by tomorrow morning. Have you made your decision? The device went silent. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. Zara's skin had gone pale, almost lavender. Trial separation ceremony. Her voice was very quiet. There is a way to end our bond without insult. Zara, let me explain. She stood abruptly, her hands clasped together tightly. How long have you known? Dr. Chen told me this morning. This morning, Zara's skin was shifting rapidly through colors Marcus had never seen, pale purple to gray to almost white. You have known all day that you could be free of this burden, and you said nothing. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Marcus? Her silver eyes were bright with unshed tears. These past days, I thought. She stopped, shaking her head. I am a fool. You have been kind because it was your duty. Everything you said, everything we shared, it was all just buying time until you could find an honorable escape. That's not true. Marcus stood, reaching for her hand, but she stepped back. Please do not touch me. Her voice cracked slightly. I have some pride left. Zara, please listen. I release you from your obligation, Marcus Webb. She spoke formally now, her diplomatic training taking over. I will inform Ambassador Kieran that we both agree to the trial separation. You need not feel guilty. I understand that you never truly chose this bond. She turned to leave, her movements stiff and formal. Zara, wait. But she was already walking away, her shoulders straight and proud even as Marcus could see her skin flickering through shades of pain and heartbreak. Marcus stood alone on the terrace, the artificial stars above suddenly feeling cold and distant. He'd gotten his freedom, his escape from an impossible situation. So why did it feel like he'd just made the worst mistake of his life?